back to my channel. My name is Marissa for those who are new here, and thank you so much for watching. As you can see by the title, in today's video is a 5-day / 1 week 1 palette video, and it is on the Colourpop Matte About Hue palette. And this palette I bought in Labor Day weekend, so that is from that haul, which I can link up in the eye and down below. But this is their very colorful palette. As you can see, it's just full on rainbow. You have super dark grungy tones all the way to your very bright pastels. Now, what really intrigued me, one, is about this palette and why I wanted to purchase it is just the gradients on all of the shades. Like for me, like what really inspired me to really get it is these dark tones, and I thought that's perfect for grungy fall looks. And then we go into the brighter ones, it's like I can bring these tones in for spring. And I'm going to kind of show a comparison, honestly. And of course, I will link everything I'm mentioning down below. And if you are new to this series on my channel, it's pretty much I take one eyeshadow palette and I wear just this eyeshadow palette for a week. And if you are new to this series on my channel, it's where I take like one eyeshadow palette and I wear it for a week, and I try to create different looks. And what I also try to do is utilize as many shades in the palette as possible and create different looks. One, it pushes my creativity and seeing pretty much what I can do with my makeup, and also it's one way for me to practice and also get better at makeup. And on top of it, it's pushing my boundaries of being, bolder, especially with this particular palette. I mean, it's all color, so it's not like you can really create a super natural look. Now, when I talk through the looks that I go through, one of the looks is, today's look, which I was trying to do with more of a lighter, neutral look that I just typically do every day. And like with these two shades, you can definitely make a very neutral look, but for obviously 98% of the palette, it's going to be a colorful look, so it's going to be a lot bolder. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to add this to my collection. Is one, I will honestly, as long as this palette is in, good and not expired, I don't really need to get another colorful palette, because you can mix these, you can create all blue look, all purple look. You can mix them. There's limitless amount of possibilities. And I'm a huge fan of the Colourpop eyeshadow formula. I have a few of their eyeshadow palettes, and I really haven't come across a bad one. And I wanted to test to see if like the shades are actually brighter, or are they just bright in the pan and then not necessarily on your eye. Now, this isn't the first colorful palette that I've had, and I've actually done a same video for this palette, and it is the NYX Ultimate palette, and it's in their bright. So this is their version of the colorful palette. I will link that video down below as well, where I just only use this palette for 1 week. And I really liked this. This was my only like full-on rainbow palette that I've had in my collection until I bought this Colourpop one. Now, as you can see, there's way more shades in the Colourpop one. As you can see, is some gradation in the NYX one, but it's not to the degree as the Colourpop one. Now, also, I've had this palette for a few years, and I think, honestly, after I've kind of played with it a little bit, I think this is expired. So I am actually going to be getting rid of this, because I have had it for a while. But I'm just going to kind of swatch compare real quick some similar shades. Like I'm actually going to go into this kind of pinky purple one. And you can kind of see it's a little light, but there is some still decent payoff. But I think when I blend it out, like you lose that brightness. Now I'm going to go into equivalent shade, which is going to be Cola right here. And I'm going to do a little swatch as well. Definitely not the exact same color, but it's, along the same lines. And as you can see, it's just a little bit deeper. And in the pan, honestly, it looks like the exact same color. So I'm going to do another one. I'm actually going to go into ones that are a little bit more difficult to make, which is these purples. So I'm going to go into the purple for the NYX one. Definitely not as like opaque, a lot paler. And then I'm going to go into, now the purple, there's not exact shade in this. There's not a true purple, where these are a little bit more of a dusty tone. So I'm going to go into Bop in the Colourpop one and kind of do a side by side. Yeah, it's not the exact same color. So let me actually try that again. You know what? I'll go into the purples, but I'll go into the lavender shade. So I'm going to go into the lavender shade. This is the Colourpop one. Let's see if I can find a place on my hand. I'll go on my arm. I went in twice, so I'll do the same thing on the NYX one. So as you can see, this one right here is the Colourpop one, and this is the NYX one, and they're pretty much the exact same shade. But as you can see on the NYX one, it's a lot paler, as the Colourpop one is definitely a lot bolder. And you know, I can keep going, and honestly, let's do a yellow. Let's do the bright yellow. So I'm gonna go in to the NYX one. Definitely, the shadows are definitely a lot chunkier in the next one, so that's what I'm thinking it's inspired. And then I'm going to go into the Colourpop one, and as you can see, just a lot bolder. So that could be honestly the way the formula is and the fact that this is old, but just based off of that, right now the winner is the Colourpop. Now this is not really a comparison video, but I wanted to kind of show, just in case you did have this palette. Honestly, I think still, if this was in good, like if this was like brand new, I still think the Colourpop one is better. I just think their eyeshadow formula is better. Now that's just, you know, again, my opinion and just based off of what I have tested. I'm still kind of brand new to all of this. I'm still somewhat new to the makeup world. I have not tested all of the eyeshadow formulas. I have not tested all of any makeup products. Like I've tested a lot, and I have like a couple of videos where I do a full face of e.l.f. and NYX, and I plan on doing more of those. And just to, for me, it's what I get excited about is just the testing the different formulas and the science behind it. And that is what really has made me more drawn to makeup, and why you're seeing more makeup videos on my channel. It's just because that's something I've been really geared toward and passionate about. And, you know, so truthfully, like right now, you know, the Colourpop is the winner. But do I think this is still a decent palette? Now, if you want to go and you're brand new and you just want to get into color, but you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, and you just don't want a huge pan like this one is still decent. Like, don't get me wrong. And you know, swatches are not everything. You got to see how it is on the eyes, which I will actually get started and showing you the different looks and walking you through the different looks that I did this week with the Colourpop Matte About Hue palette. Now this palette is all mattes. There is no shimmers at all, and I have my extensive notes here, since you know this goes across like a whole week, so I don't want to forget anything, and like my first impressions, and yeah. So I will have some overlays, and I will of course link all of the products that I used for each day down below, so that, and I'm mostly going to be focusing on the eyeshadows today, but of course again I'll link everything down below, including the sweater I have on. And I don't know if you can tell, but I have a fall theme now in my background. That video will be up already, so I'll link that up in the eye and down below, where I decorate my house in fall, like a decorate with me. Okay, let's go into day one. And now in day one, I wanted to work in these yellow tones and kind of match the flannel that I was wearing, because I was actually filming another video that day as well. And so I wanted like the full glam. I was pushing my boundaries. I was just going for it. Now, like these tones are a lot more neutral, but to me it was kind of pushing out of my comfort zone because of the bright yellows. I typically don't wear yellow eyeshadows. So I started out with the shade Homework in the crease, and I kind of blended it out. That shade is a really good neutral shade, and it blended really well. Yeah, that shade I really liked, and I think it's a great shade to have because it's really neutral, but has a little bit of the yellow tone. However, I think you can start that in your crease as like a base to start all of the looks, no matter what color shades you go to in this palette. Now the next shade I went into is the shade Pow. This is a very, very pale orange shade. And I wanted to use it to blend out the crease because I didn't want that crease color to be really harsh. I wanted it to be very blended and very smooth. And it was a really nice shade for that and for what I was trying to go for. It blended really nicely, no complaints there. Then I went into the shade Camp, which is the very, very dark yellow toned brown. And I put that in the outer corner. Now, I really loved the tone of this, but I found myself having to build it a lot to get to that really deep dark tone that I was going for. Now, I personally like that because if it's too much and like you do too much, it's really hard to take away than it is to build. And like, I don't mind it. Now, if it's super pale, like some of the swatches I showed you with the NYX, there's not really building a whole lot. You're spending hours and hours blending. Now for me, Camp, did you have to build it? Absolutely. But it wasn't like you were spending hours and hours blending it out. But I really, really liked the tone. Now going over the lid, I went into the shade Can Do, which is this very mustard yellow tone, which I was really excited about. And I put it on all over the lid, and it was very light. And so I had to build, that was another one I had to build up. I went back and forth between like all three of the shades that I used. So Can Do, Homework, and Camp, to go back and forth to try to blend it out. That technique definitely worked for the look I was going for. Now I wanted a really, really bright matte inner corners because for this look particularly, I wasn't going to be using a glitter highlighter or a metallic highlighter. I was keeping this whole look very matte. And so I went into Lotta Gelato, and I tried it on the inner corner, but it was too dark. So then I tried the shade Bus Stop, and the inner corner still too dark. And then I realized, okay, maybe I'll change the brush that I was using. Went back into Bus Stop, and it came out exactly the way I wanted it. And it had that really bright yellow, and I was really happy with it. The look that I was setting out to do, I was able to accomplish. Like, what I had in mind came to life. And so overall, I loved the look, and all the shadows blended really well. Can Do was the only one I couldn't get to like fully punch the way I wanted it, but it still turned out fine. There's not a ton of kickback, which is really good to know because I know some people have an issue with that. I personally don't, so I just wanted to know that. However, throughout the day, so I had to wear this look throughout the day, like through my job, and then also I was filming another video, and I noticed that it started creasing after about an hour of wearing it. Now that could have been the base, that could have been, maybe I rubbed it. Like there's could be so many factors to that, but I definitely wanted to know that it was definitely starting to crease pretty quickly after I put it on. Okay, going into day 2, I was wanting to definitely go a little bit more bold and also do a really, really cool burgundy eyeshadow. So what I ended up starting with is I started with Screwdriver in the crease, which is this really, really, which is the true orange, as like to start and to have like a good base. And then I went into the shade Sugar Rush, and I put that and then I went to the shade Vibing, which is that next darkish orange, and I put that all over the lid. Now this is a very pretty color. It screams fall to me. Like this look I was doing on day 2, 100% screams fall to me, and it's definitely one I will, think about reciprocating throughout the season. And I put it all over the lid. I had no problems. It's just, when you do something like this with a matte, especially a bold color, you're going to have to build it, especially if you want it super opaque and you want it to punch. Now, did I find that I was here for hours doing that? Absolutely not. I maybe did 2 or 3 layers, which is very easy. I used a packer kind of brush and to pack it on. It turned out fine. There wasn't fallout either, which I want to note as well, because when you do a dark shade like that, and you're packing on, you could very easily have fallout, and I didn't, which I was very happy about. Then I went into the shade Sugar Rush, which is that really dark orange. So it's a brown with an orange tone to it, very, very dark. And I put that in the lower lash line and it turned out fine. Overall, this look I felt like was very quick and it was really easy to blend and it was bold but simple. So I feel like if we have like a Friendsgiving coming up, or maybe even for Thanksgiving, or even you can do those oranges for Halloween. I know Halloween has passed, but like I said, this palette I think it will become a really good staple in my collection as the go-to for color. Honestly, like that look was very quick to do overall, which when you look at it, it doesn't seem like it because it's full of color. But I thought it was really bold but simple, and it's definitely a look that I might do again, maybe even for Thanksgiving because I'm hosting this year. But really happy with that look. Now on to day 3. Now I was going for a matte halo eye, which I wanted to use a liquid eyeshadow from e.l.f. that I recently got, the one in Galaxy was the shade. And I wanted to create like a really cool purple, very Halloween-y kind of makeup look. And this was actually done on Halloween. And we were just going to be home trick-or-treating. But I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, so that's what I ended up doing. Was this on Halloween? No, this was the Friday of Halloween weekend. That's what it was. My bad. Anyways, so I started out with the shade Cola in the crease because it was I didn't want to do Bop, which is the middle shade for purple. I wanted to kind of make it very dimensional. So I went into Cola, which is a really nice pink color, and put in the crease, no issues there. Then I went into Tada, which is the second to darkest purple. This one definitely had a little bit more pink to it, so almost had like a darker, like, how do I put this? It was like browny purple, but more purple than brown. There was really interesting tones in this eyeshadow palette. And so I took Tada and I put it in the outer and inner corner, and it was absolutely beautiful. The color was opaque. There was no fallout, which is definitely something that happens with purples. I know that's not purples, and reds are, I believe they're the hardest one. Correct me down if I'm wrong down in the comments if purple and pinks are like the hardest ones to produce without it having being like totally pale or like super chunky, and I didn't find that with these shadows. So there was no fallout and it turned out beautiful. Then I went into Igloo, which is the IGLU, and I put that in the center of the lid as like a base to start for that purple liquid shadow that I was going to put on top, but it was really pretty. But I found it wasn't bold enough, so if I just did all matte halo eye, I think I would have had to go even lighter and just go into that do or die shade, which is that very light lavender. And once I put it on the liquid shadow, everything kind of came together. This was very out of my comfort zone, but I absolutely loved it, and the fact that I was able to do it and all the shadows blend really easily. Like for the most part, like I'm pretty much a makeup novice, and I'm not a makeup artist, but I just have, from watching social media like YouTube and also working with different makeup artists for shoots for when I was modeling, that's where I've learned a lot. But I don't consider myself like a makeup artist, and I consider myself an artist, like in terms of painting and drawing. Like I feel myself, I definitely consider myself an artist in that aspect. And so when I go into, bolder makeup looks, I kind of think of it as that way. It's like you're painting a face, talk about, Cher from the movie Burlesque, to quote her. It's like when you're putting on your makeup, you're painting a face. And that's just how I approach it. So this was probably my favorite look of the whole week that I did, but I don't know if I would do it again. I don't know. Like, it's just, I have to find it like a way, like the reasoning for purple, like, because purple's not a color I wear a lot, but I think that's just something where I need to think even bolder. Like, like I don't have to be wearing anything purple to wear it. So it made me think more. It made me want to be more creative and make me think out of the side of the box more, which I'm really happy about. Now on to day 4, I had some Zoom meetings that I had to do for work. So I didn't want to do anything too crazy, but I still wanted to pop a color. And one thing I also try to do is work with the shadows of like, layering them, and then layering them either with a halo eye or going super light and seeing what happens, and then going super heavy and seeing what happens. Does it crease? Does it, does there fallout? Is there flakes or whatever? One of the things I like to do is take an eyeliner pencil and take one of the shadows and create an eyeliner out of it. And that's what I did on this day. And so I started out with Homework on the crease. Again, great solid shade to kind of just start as like a base. And then I went into the shade Pow on the lid to kind of almost like cover some of my veins, and also just put a shadow there to kind of just make sure everything's kind of blended and seamless. You don't see any, veining or anything like that. Then I went into the shade Alley Cat, which is the darkest green on the green row. And I used that as the liner. And then I went into the second lightest green, which is Stop, which is 3 Ps. And I put that in the inner corner. Now for the Alley Cat shade, I definitely found that it had more of a teal tone than I was expecting. In the pan, it looks like a very foresty green. So I'm going to have to play with that a little bit. Maybe it was just maybe the brush I used, or maybe like there was maybe blue on it already, or maybe that's just that shade if you are packing it on like that. The right eye came out with like a perfect cat eyeliner, which I was really happy about and was really shocked. The left eye, not so much, but that I'm still practicing the cat eye, and I'm still, with the whole liner work, I'm still working on it, but I really liked how it came out. The shadows were definitely opaque. All of them were easy to work with. Some of them, I used them in previous looks, so I was really happy with that. However, I did find that Alley Cat transferred. Like the fact that it was a liner, and then when I, opened my eyes, it definitely transferred onto the lid. So it might be one of those where I have to maybe not pack it on so much if I want to do that liner look, or if maybe that's just not the shadow to do that look with, or it's one of those things is I think I just have to be very maybe excess on the powder on the crease, just so that way that there is no stickiness for the liner shade to go to. So it was really interesting. I liked it, and I was happy with the fact that I'm getting better at the cat eye. I don't know. I think I want to play with that when I maybe do like more like a halo eye, kind of like I did with the purples, and see what happens, or just do my normal look that I tend to do, but with that particular shade. But I was really happy with the look. On to day 5, which is the look that I am wearing today, I wanted to do just like a typical look for me. Now, I'm also kind of testing things out, as well as starting to incorporate more products that I've never really incorporated before with. For example, cream eyeshadow. Now, I used the cream eyeshadow in the Set in Stone palette from Colourpop, and that was it's called Rock Solid. And I put that all over the lid because I wanted to see what these shades did when they are, when they come in contact with like a cream shadow. Do they blend well with it, or does it get super patchy and you can't blend it? Because sometimes I've even seen, as well as in my own experience, like some shadows just don't work with cream eyeshadows. It's like as soon as that cream eyeshadow's on, like that's it. That's all you get, and that's what you're doing. And I wanted to try that out, as well as I wanted to combine like a super soft shadow. So this look that you're seeing on me today, and of course you'll see in the close-ups, is just a typical look that I do, which is a color in the crease, color in the corner, and then I put on a super shock. That is a tongue twister. Anyways, and I like to add a little bit of liner. Then I like to add like a lip stain on. Like the whole look that you are seeing me wearing currently is just one of my typical ones. However, I wanted to do straight up neutral, see if I can get a straight up neutral look. But when I kept looking at the palette, I was like, you know what? I'm going to add a color that matches the sweater I'm wearing. By the way, this is from Altered State. I'll, of course, link it down below. It's a really comfortable cropped sweater. And And so it like looking at it, I was like, yeah, I could honestly do that. I could have just gone into Homework Camp, which is the two really dark browns, or into Sugar Rush, put that on the outer corner and crease, put on a Super Shock, and then be done. But when I looked at it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to put Cola in. So actually, let me walk you through. So I started out with that Set in Stone cream shadow called Rock Solid. Then I went into Camp. I went in with it with a kind of tapered fluffy brush. Like you can also pack as well as blend. And so that's why I went into Camp, because I feel like the tone of it, obviously it's really dark, but I think the tone of it is really good as a crease shade. So if you don't go overboard with it, I think it turned out really nicely. It's a really good brown. And so I went with that, and it did... And it was a little scary at first, because when I first was putting it on, I was like, this isn't blending. It was just straight up sticking to that cream shadow, which I was really afraid of. But I just kept working at it and like trying to blend and blend and blend. And so it ended up blending out. And like at first, a couple of times when I was just kind of going back and forth between the two eyes, I was like, oh, this is getting bolder, too bold, too bold. And so I would just blend, and then, you know what? It would blend it out just fine. And I like it... no complaints on it. So honestly, I was just going to leave it at that and then put on a Super Shock. But then I took a Little Iffy, which is the second to darkest pink tone. And it's definitely like a dark mauve. And I ended up putting that in the outer corner. And it turned out really nicely. Like it was blending really easily. Again, no foul out. Not a whole lot of kickback either, which I was really happy with. And, you know, just kind of blended a little bit. And it just added like a pop of color that, you know, otherwise I could have done a neutral. I mean, I'm wearing a sweatshirt, so it's like I don't need to be bold, but you can if you want to. And I'm not going anywhere. But honestly, I just was inspired. I was like, you know what, let's just do it. And like, let's see what happens. And then I put on the Colourpop Super Shock, which is in the Colors of the Wind from their Disney Princess collection. It's really pretty gold shade that was like, it's not too warm, but it's not too cool either. And I think it's a really good, just everyday Super Shock. And I put that on the lid and just blended really nicely. And it was, you know, it was really patchy at first. So I was a little concerned, you know, with the cream shadow. So I was like, if I went into maybe like a MAC Painterly Paint Pot, or if I went, you know, just another cream shadow, or like maybe one of the matte shadow sticks from e.l.f. Like I was like, I don't know, like if that's gonna go well within this case. But you know what, it ended up being fine. You had to go back and forth and blend it. So there was some like work you had to do, but at the end of the day, it didn't take me that long, and it turned out fine. So I really like with how the look turned out, and I'm not really a pink girl. So that's the other thing too. And so, you know, it inspired me to go bolder. Now, like when I look at this palette, it's just like, okay, the possibilities are endless. I can make a green and blue look. I can make a blue and orange look. I can make a green and yellow look. I can make a purple and pink look. I can, you know, there's so many things that I can do with this palette. And so I am super happy with my purchase. I'm really excited about it. And if you're looking for a colorful palette and you just want to dip your toes in, but you don't want to like spend a whole lot of money, I think this is a really good find. I mean, granted, I think it was, of course I'll link it down below, but I believe it was $24. And for the amount of shadows you get, and the fact is you can wear this all year round. Like it's a colorful palette that you can wear all year round. And so, you know, like what more can you ask? And I really liked it. I didn't dip a whole lot into the blue shades, but that's okay. And I wanted to, but I feel like I wanted to push more. Like that's why I didn't really touch the greens a whole lot. I wanted to really push myself creatively and to see kind of what happens. And you know, it turns out there are some really cool looks that I really want to recreate actually. And it made me want to reach into this palette more. Now, some days there was like, you know what, I was like, I don't even want to put on a colorful eyeshadow. And it's like, you know what, I went into Camp, or I went into Honeydew. And sometimes I was like, you know what, I'm just not in the mood, so I'll just put bronzer in the crease. Like, but for when I want to do it, like, I want to reach for this palette. And I think that says a lot, because I'm a colorful person, but typically for my makeup preferences, I don't do a whole lot of color. And this is making me want to go into color more, which is, really cool. And I also want to push myself creatively. I'm a very creative person. I have a lot more creative mindset than I am like, logical, or what is it, more academic, or what is the opposite of creative? Like, that's going to bug me. That's going to bug me. But and so I like anything that has to do with art. That's why a lot of I like to hang a lot of paintings. That's why I collect a lot of art, or a lot of things that just straight up give me joy. And also why I seem to collect a lot of makeup as well, because the color just draws, I get drawn in by the color, and obviously that is what this palette did. So yeah, I really enjoyed this palette. I'm really happy to have it in my collection. And let me know down below if you have this palette and what you thought of the different looks that I tried with this palette. And let me know down below as well any palettes that you would like me to do the 1 week 1 palette challenge. I think it's a great challenge for to test out all the shadows in your palettes, as well as you're using your makeup, and you can push yourself creatively. I'm definitely a more creative person. That's why I love art, I love fashion, and I love creating things. I love working with my hands. That's why I collect art so much. And the color, I'm just drawn to color, and I think that's why makeup has become really a passion of mine, because there's so much color in it, and there's also a science behind it, which I really enjoy. But yeah, let me know down below your thoughts on today's video, and also palettes. What else? I'm rambling. I'm so sorry. I am rambling. But thank you again for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for new videos every single week. We're doing about 2 or 3 videos a week, which I'm really happy about, and I'm really excited that you guys are enjoying the videos that I'm putting up here. And yeah, there's gonna be a ton coming up with the holidays, so definitely subscribe and join the little family that's growing here on YouTube. And if you're not following me on Instagram, it is at From Hem to Stem. I really appreciate when you guys like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out with the algorithm, and it also tells me what videos you guys are liking and what videos you aren't. So it really helps us out when you guys do that. And I really enjoy making these videos, and I hope that comes across. But yeah, thank you again. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.